Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we currently have 2 weeks to go before Election Day. A lot of people are already voting and this is the home stretch, so I thought why not drop my second to last penultimate election prediction between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And currently we can look at the state of affairs. We could look at some of the new data that we've been seeing, and we could also, I guess you would say, look at some of the early vote to see which direction certain states are kind of going in while we decide to fill out these states and which way they're going to go. And you talk about polling, you talk about the momentum. Donald Trump in the battleground states. You talk about a month ago where the state of the race was, it was a dead heat tie. But right now, Donald Trump in the battlegrounds, he's taken a lead, a 1.1 percentage point lead, and he leads in every single battleground state in the polling. He trailed massively in polls in the Rust Belt at this point in 2016 and 2020, and the polls were wrong and underestimated him both election cycles. But I think the important thing to look at is the national polling as well, because Kamala Harris leads by just 0.9%. And when you look at the polls that are currently in the aggregate, you only really have one pollster that has a right-leaning bias in terms of its track record, in terms of Rasmussen. And it's a hell of a lot more accurate historically than a lot of these other pollsters in the mix, like Morning Compost, for example. Harris +4, they say. But when you look at the polls across the board and you take them in the aggregate, which has underestimated Donald Trump and the Republicans in 2016, 2020, and 2022, Kamala Harris's lead is 0.9%. That's not enough because she likely is going to need to win the election in terms of the popular vote by over 2 percentage points to go out there and win the popular vote. And it's unprecedented. Donald Trump never polled above 46% in 2016 or 2020, but right now he currently is polling at 48.4, 48.5% in the polling, which is absolutely astounding for him. And you look at the comparison to 2016 and 2020. Hillary led by 6 points this day in history. Biden led by 8 points this day in history. And you saw massive misses in both of those election cycles from that day to the end result. So what we're seeing here is huge. And we're going to fill out this map, but really quickly, I have to tell you guys about my merch store, which is going away soon at shop.redeaglepolitics.com. So you want to buy as soon as you can, because by the end of the month, we may not have it. And we are doing a deal where you can buy one, get one 20% off all t-shirts, tank tops, and coffee mugs. We have free shipping on orders over $50 in the United States. And we have a bunch of 5-star reviews on every single product, just about, when you look at this. And we have these epic designs on t-shirts, tank tops, and coffee mugs. You can get a t-shirt and you could get this Trump iconic black mug for 20% off, the epic bullet design on the front, and on the back, the inspirational quote. If you're thinking about buying, I recommend you guys go check out the merch store and buy today. The link will be in the description and the pinned comment down below. So we're going to start off filling out the safe Republican states. These are the states that are going to be going in Donald Trump's column by 10 percentage points or more. And we have the state of Alaska, the state of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, both Dakotas. We have 4 out of the 5 electoral votes in the state of Nebraska. We have Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, and South Carolina. These are all the states that were safe red in 2020, but also we have some new entrants to the column. Florida, the early vote data is ridiculous. Republicans already have a lead, and that registration edge for the Democrats, they actually led by a couple 100,000 going into the 2020 election. Now Republicans lead by 1 million in Florida, and I think you're going to see a big direct translation to votes. Democrats are screwed beyond belief in the state of Florida. It's not in play. I think polls are going to underestimate Republicans there once again. I think Trump takes it by around 11, as well as the state of Iowa, which you have a very large rural population moving to the right in the state, heavy white working class population there. Kamala Harris not going to be as good of a fit compared to 2020 Joe Biden when the macro environment is not favoring her really in any way. And then you have Ohio, which is kind of a similar phenomenon happening there. I think Trump's going to take Ohio by around 10, 11 points or so, and then Bernie Moreno is easily going to get carried in the Senate race. And then we have Maine's 2nd District, which will be going safe Republican as well. I think he's going to get back to a 10-point lead there. Kamala Harris did not have that northeastern, like Yankee-esque appeal that Joe Biden was able to enjoy during a time that was very tumultuous for the country. So you look at the current Donald Trump number, he's at 179 electoral votes. That's a big cushion to really have banked in your column, but Kamala Harris is going to get the West Coast as well in her column. California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado's another state. Republicans are actually doing surprisingly well in the early vote dump we've seen there, but I just think the state is just moving left off a cliff. It's become the reverse Florida, if there ever was one. A lot of liberal Californians moved to Colorado. Some of the more conservative ones are the ones moving to places like Nevada and Texas, and we'll get to those states in a minute. But you have Illinois, you have D.C., Maryland, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. I think Rhode Island's going to get closer because you have like a larger working class population compared to a place like Connecticut. You also have the state of Vermont. That'll be safe blue. Maine's 1st District should be safe blue. You have Delaware. That's going to be one to watch on the margins, as well as New Jersey. I could see New Jersey being within 10, but as of right now, we're going to keep it in the safe blue column. Trump's not going to really have a shot to win it, but it could be closer. And then you have the state of New York. A poll dropped today that had Kamala up by 19, and that comes after a lot of polls we've seen with Donald Trump kind of surprisingly cutting the margin, like down from a 23-point Biden win to a 12-point Kamala win. I think that it's probably going to be somewhere around, D plus 15, D plus 16 as things stand today, but it's not really going to be in play. But the Madison Square Garden thing should be interesting for sure. Then you have the state of Hawaii, which will be going in Kamala Harris's column as well. Can't forget about Hawaii, even though I do expect it to move right. And Trump may also flip Guam in the straw poll, which he almost did last time. But again, it's not something that actually counts electorally. So out of the gate, Kamala Harris has 191 electoral votes in the safe column. Donald Trump has 179 electoral votes in his safe column. And now we're going to fill out the likely states, the states that are going to be going for either candidate between 5 percentage points and 10 percentage points. And we're going to start off on the Republican side, where I believe the only state that counts in this column is the state of Texas. Donald Trump, we talk about what happened in 2020. You had a lot of growth to places like DFW. You are not seeing the same level of growth in these places. And in terms of the trend among college-educated white voters, it's probably not going to be as pronounced as it was in 2020, to the point where Trump gaining with groups like Hispanic voters, for example, is going to be able to kind of counteract that and cause some net gain in some of these counties like Dallas County, where I helped lead a focus group that was just surprisingly Republican last weekend, to the point where I was shocked. And I think that downstate, he's going to continue to gain in the Rio Grande Valley, probably not by the 2020 margins, but still substantially in some of these places. You might get a, Hidalgo County that gets closer. You probably flip Starr County. And Democrats in the Austin area, yeah, they're probably going to make some gains marginally, but it's not going to be anything like what we saw from 2016 to 2020. And Trump doing better with some of these younger voters should probably help him out in some of these areas too. He'll hold his own in Houston. Houston might even turn a corner. I think Trump's going to win the state by more than he won it by in 2020. I think he's going to win it by 7 to 8, somewhere in that range, maybe by more than 8 if he has a good night and does very well among Hispanic voters. We still don't know the number on that he's going to get, but we probably are going to see an improvement that is 5 to 10 points over what he got last time. So already at 219, and we'll go to the Democrat side, where we have several. New Hampshire, this is one, and maybe it's closer than this, because it is true that they're sending surrogates to New Hampshire, which is a little strange this late in the ball game for the Democrats. Maybe it's a head fake. Maybe they're just going to do a fundraiser there. But again, you have a lot of college-educated white voters that have moved in from the Boston area. Third-party vote share is probably going to be relatively low. I think Trump's going to gain, but I don't think that you're going to see ridiculous gains. Like, he might gain a point or two at most in the state of New Hampshire, and I think Harris takes it by just a hair over 5% as things stand today. And then we have New Mexico. New Mexico early vote data looks pretty good for Republicans compared to 2020. Again, it is still early, and Trump doing better with Hispanics overall is going to help him. And we have this all in the Swingometer here, by the way, which is not going to be indicative of my marginal prediction for every single state, but we do have Donald Trump getting 43% of the Hispanic vote. He's cutting the margin of loss with the black vote down from like a 90 or 80% Democrat lead all the way down to a 73-point lead. We have Harris gaining with white college graduates, not necessarily by a ridiculous amount, not by the amount that a lot of these polls are showing. And we have Donald Trump gaining on net about 5 points from 2020 among white non-college educated voters as well, the white working class vote, which will be crucial in the Rust Belt. So New Mexico, still because of the college white percentage, Harris is going to probably end up winning it by over 5, even if Trump is going to make gains with Hispanics. So that's why we have it in that specific column there. Polling's been a little bit mixed as well. So up next, we're going to be going to the lean states. And these are the states that are not going to be in the Big Seven. We're going to save the Big Seven swing states for last and do a roundup of those. And in this column, we have states that are going to be going for either side by 2 to 5 percentage points. And there are 3 of these states here, and all 3 are in the Democrat column. Maine at large is one of them, by the way. I do expect Donald Trump to improve in certain parts of Maine where Joe Biden may have had a unique point of strength. I do think that it's going to be enough to cut that margin down, at least on the first ballot. I'm not really making a prediction for what the ranked choice voting final is going to be in the state of Maine, but I do think it's very difficult for Donald Trump to win it, but it is more working class than New Hampshire, and I think this year you're going to see New Hampshire vote to the left of Maine because of that realignment that we're seeing. Also, the state of Virginia, the early vote data looks phenomenal for Republicans. And again, I think that this might be a little bit of a stretch right now. I have it slightly under 5%. But the bottom line is that Republicans are really turning a corner in the state. You're seeing supercharged turnout, Trump improving in these rurals and working class areas, and also improving among certain minority groups in Nova. That's going to be enough to get his margin down to about a 5-point win. Democrats are not getting the early vote margins that they need. I've talked to a lot of experts that have nailed Virginia the past 4 elections, going all the way back 2020, 2021, 22, and 23, because they do have an election every year. So far, Democrats could be in some trouble there as Trump will be making gains and as the Youngkin machine is being built and it's ramping up. So we'll really have to see what happens out of the state of Virginia, but I don't think that Donald Trump's going to win it. We also have the state of Minnesota as well in this column. Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. I don't think that's really going to help Kamala Harris. I do think she's going to win it by just under 5 percentage points. You will see Donald Trump doing better among white working class voters, among certain rural voters in the state of Minnesota. I think he's actually going to do a little bit better in Tim Walz's district, actually, than he did in 2020, for the record. I do think that in terms of what we're going to see in the Minneapolis area, you're going to see problems for the Democrats among the Somali vote. It's not a big voting block, but a little bit can, I guess, go a long way in a state like Minnesota. I don't think it's going to flip, but I do think the margin's going to be in between the 2016 margin and the 2020 margin that we saw. So we also have Nebraska's 2nd district. Republicans really dropped the ball not making the state winner take all, because then the pathway for Kamala Harris very well could be shut down, given what I'm about to show you with some of these Sun Belt states and how I think they're going to end up going. But in terms of Nebraska's 2nd district, it's, just that legacy Republican that doesn't like Donald Trump. That's kind of like the old guard Republican in that district. And it's one of those areas in the Omaha area that's just been moving to the left for the past 10 years or so. I don't even know if Don Bacon's going to be able to hold on, and you have a lot of people angry about the winner-take-all thing, mainly because it failed, and as a result, you're kind of seeing what's happening in the state of Nebraska there. I think Democrat turnout's going to be spiked a little bit because of that, and it's going to backfire. Still, I think the district will narrow a little bit. from the 2020 result that we ended up seeing, but I don't think that Donald Trump is going to end up flipping this district. He really only won it in 2016 because you had like 10% of that go third party, and a lot of that vote went to Biden. Trump might get some voters back because of certain fundamentals, but it's probably not going to be enough. So we have the big 7 swing states left to fill out. Here we will be going. We'll do the Sun Belt first, actually, and then we'll do the Rust Belt. Usually we save Arizona and Nevada for last. We're going to switch it up a little bit here. So we have the state of North Carolina. We could look at the polling data out of North Carolina. It's relatively close, but then again, polling at this point had Hillary up by 3 points. She ended up losing the state by 3 to 4. It had Biden up by 1.8. He lost it by 1.3. And you see some of these polls that are in the aggregate, like Quinnipiac, they've missed in the past by a lot. We've seen High Point Survey USA, they've missed in the past as well in the state. You have Emerson with Trump up. You have a lot of polls with Trump up. I'll be revealing my North Carolina poll that I helped conduct tonight on stream. Not to give out too many spoilers, but it's not in line with a lot of these polls. I think Donald Trump at the end of the day is going to take the state of North Carolina, and you could see here we have the swingometer of the anticipated margins. I don't think he's going to win by 4 to 5 points, but it is true that black turnout so far is not where it needs to be for the Democrats. There is absolutely no enthusiasm whatsoever, and I'm being generous here when I give Harris an 86 to 13 margin. For the record, if you want to pull out the state of North Carolina here and we could adjust it on this swingometer, I think that Donald Trump probably performs in line with these white working class voters. Maybe he does do a point better, but they're less malleable here. Harris might gain with some of these, white college grads in the state, but among black voters, black turnout dipping to possibly like 19% overall, and you see these massive shifts. Maybe Trump only gains a few points here, but that's still crucial. And then Trump probably does better with Hispanic voters. Their share of the vote probably goes up a little bit as well. And the, Asian other vote, assuming it stays about the same, you're basically seeing Donald Trump, 51.3, maybe white working class turnout drops a little bit here. But the bottom line is I think Trump's going to win the state by around, close to 3 points or so, give or take, especially at the rate things are going. He could take it by more if this black turnout debacle continues for Democrats, which it has not shown signs of slowing down. So we'll see. But Georgia, it's a very similar thing. Donald Trump in the state of Georgia, I think he's going to flip it back, and I think he's going to win the state by a couple points as well. You look at the polling in Georgia, the gold standard poll just dropped today. Donald Trump led that poll by 4 percentage points, which is absolutely huge. That's the gold standard. They've underestimated Trump every time. I'm not saying he's going to win it by 5, but I am saying I trust the aggregate that has him up by 2.5 because Georgia polls are typically pretty accurate, even looking at this day in history. Not too far off the mark there. 2022, not that far off the mark when other states were. The swingometer at large nationally has Trump up by 4, but there is a state level swingometer for Georgia. And if they dip to like 29% of the electorate being black, which I think is more than possible, even if Donald Trump sees decent losses among, college educated whites, he still is going to win the state, which is huge. I think he takes it by around 2 to 3 as things stand now. And that could change in my final prediction. We're not there yet. But now we're going to go to the state of Arizona. And you could look at the polling here, and you see Donald Trump leading by 2 percentage points in the polls, which is absolutely huge because the polls had actually Hillary Clinton leading in 2016. She lost, and then they had Biden winning the state by an overestimation of around 3 points. So when you look at the polls, even a lot of these polls that we see from groups like the New York Times, like CBS News, these mainstream media pollsters, and even in-state pollsters, they all have Donald Trump leading, which is huge for Trump, and the registration data looks good. And it looks good in North Carolina as well, which isn't talked about a lot. But in Arizona, Republicans, since the election, have netted like 220,000 of those new voters in the state of Arizona over the Democrats. And even since the midterms, they've netted most of that after the midterms, by the way, in the state of Arizona, which is huge. And because you're going to have a less educated electorate than you saw in the midterms, that probably is going to bode well for Republicans as things stand, and that does carry over to the state of Nevada where you saw a similar drop-off. But you see this phenomenon across the board. We could pull up the map in Arizona. Maricopa County, That's where the elections are won. And Republicans with these, early vote dumps we've seen, they're doing phenomenal so far in Maricopa County. Now it is true that there are a chunk of like legacy McCain Republicans that now vote Democrat but are still registered Republican. But a lot of those new registrations, that's not the demographic that has newly registered as a Republican. Those people are going to cancel out the votes, in my opinion, of a lot of those McCain-style Republicans. And you have Donald Trump doing better among Hispanic voters. He'll probably improve a little bit with, white working class voters, especially as the issue of immigration is huge. He does probably lose a little bit with white college grads. There's no denying that. And in terms of the Hispanic vote, I really think, he's probably going to get up in the 40s. He might do better with the black vote as well. The black vote in the Southwest is more Republican by a noticeable amount than it is in like the Deep South, for example. So when you look at this, Donald Trump already close to 50% in the state. He got 48.1% in 2016, 49.1% in 2020. I think he's going to get 50% this time. I think as things stand right now, you very well could put it in the lean Republican column. We have it as Trump plus 3 currently on the national swingometer. I think it's going to be less than that, but it's not going to be too far off. And then Nevada is crucial, where Trump leads by 2. I don't think he's going to win the state by 2. But if that Democrat firewall, which doesn't exist, continues to not exist, Donald Trump is going to be in a prime position to flip the state. It's a very working class heavy state. Of course, he's got to make up more ground there than he has to make up in Arizona. But demographically speaking, it's favorable. I think he's going to do well. The Culinary Union and John Ralston, 2 people that are more accurate at predicting the state than the polls, and 2 people that also lean left, have basically issued warning signs for the Democrats there, even if they do lose some of these white college voters on the Republican side, which I don't think they're going to lose a ridiculous amount. There's going to be marginal gains among black voters. There's going to be decent gains among Hispanic voters. I think he's going to get in the 40s. And at that point, he would win the state. I think it's going to be close for sure. But Democrats do have this turnout problem. And if Clark County is within 6 points, Donald Trump is going to win the state. I think he could do even better than that in Clark County. We'll see. Maybe he doesn't get that WashU margin there, but he's definitely running it up so far in the early voting. You absolutely love to see it. Democrats don't have that party registration advantage they had where they could tap into and bank a lot of votes. So you see that. And that leaves us with 3 Rust Belt states, which Donald Trump needs one of them to win the election. He just needs to go 1 for 3 in the Rust Belt because everything is looking pretty good for him in the Sun Belt. But again, the Rust Belt is crucial. And again, you have to look back at 2020 in Pennsylvania. Joe Biden did have a unique point of strength in the state of Pennsylvania. He really did. You talk about northeastern Pennsylvania, that was the part of the state that moved to the left the most, according to the data. And I think Donald Trump is going to reverse that because you see the fact that Biden was from there. He had this appeal to these white independent Catholic voters that voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. A lot of them still voted for Trump and they stuck with Trump. But like the Polish American, Irish American, that demographic that is very prominent in eastern Pennsylvania, I do believe that Donald Trump is going to really do well against San Francisco Kamala compared to Scranton Joe, which is absolutely huge, and I believe it's going to happen in Pennsylvania. And again, let's look at the current polling. He leads by 1. He leads by 1% in the state of Pennsylvania. You have some polls that were abysmal in 2020 that show Harris leading, and even some polls that were off the mark in 2020 that have Donald Trump leading in the state. So it's neck and neck, clearly. You can look at the current swingometer. We'll go to Pennsylvania. I think that, again, this is a demographic, the white non-college vote. I think Donald Trump is in a prime position to do very well there. White college grads, yeah, she might gain marginally. I don't know how much room she has to grow. And then the black vote, you're probably going to see that turnout percentage dip. And I think that Donald Trump is going to gain as well. He'll get in the double digits. The Hispanic vote, I think you're probably going to see Donald Trump gain a decent amount there as he did in 2020. And maybe he does slightly better with Asian or other. And you see the map here, Donald Trump. Okay, I don't know if I believe that margin. I don't know if I buy that one. But I do believe that he's going to win the state by probably around 2 points, maybe a little bit less. And the early vote data does look good for Donald Trump as things stand right now. People are panicking about it. But the main takeaway is Republicans have netted like almost 400,000 new voters since the 2020 election. And in terms of the early vote, the Democrats so far, they're losing in terms of net requests every day. Republicans are catching up in the mail, and Republicans just need to really outvote the Democrats at the rate things are going by like 11 points on election day to win. Even Dr. Oz did that in 2022 when he lost. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think Trump is in a pretty good position right now in the state of Pennsylvania, which would give him the victory. And then you have Michigan and Wisconsin, which the early vote data is a little murky, although Wisconsin did open in-person early voting, and you saw ridiculous turnout in the WOW counties, which is good for Trump. But Michigan, he leads the polls by 1.2%, and you see a recurring theme in a lot of these polls that are in-state, as well as some of these right-leaning pollsters. They're all showing similar results and that Donald Trump is in the lead. You talk about the auto industry, you talk about the anger in the Arab American community and the Muslim American community at the Democrats, you talk about black turnout not being where it really needs to be. Yeah, I think Michigan is a prime candidate for Donald Trump to flip back into his column. And you still have a lot of those, white working class voters that knew Biden, could trust Biden. Maybe they're like white Catholic independents. I think Trump is going to gain a decent share of those voters back, and that would already be enough. And even if he goes down into like the 30s with white college-educated voters and doesn't even gain with black voters, if that black turnout dips to like 62%, it's very possible that even if he just makes a marginal gain, there's the state. And that doesn't even touch like the Arab vote, the Muslim vote, whatever. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very close state. I think Donald Trump right now, just based on the state's, economic lean, especially in a presidential year, I think Donald Trump's going to take it back narrowly as things stand. We'll wait and see what the final 2 weeks have to say. But Wisconsin, this is an interesting one because the final polling aggregates were like Clinton +7, Biden +7, and the state was neck and neck both times. Now Donald Trump leads the polls, which is unprecedented in the state of Wisconsin. And you talk about trends and what we've seen out of Wisconsin. Very favorable demography for Republicans for sure, assuming Donald Trump is able to do very well among these white working class voters, definitely among these college-educated white voters in places like Ozaukee. He lost a lot of ground. Turnout was supercharged in Madison and Milwaukee. I don't think you're going to see that exactly. I think Donald Trump is going to break in the 30s in Milwaukee. I think turnout's going to be down. And when you look at Wisconsin here, we have it going to Trump by 2.2%. But we could look at Wisconsin on the Swingometer. Yeah, I think that she's going to definitely lose some more of those white working class driftless area voters. She might gain among some of these, white college grads, but she doesn't have much room to grow. That's kind of the problem. That even puts Trump at 36. The black vote, you're going to see turnout drop. You're probably going to see the percentage drop as well in inner city Milwaukee. The Hispanic vote will probably leave alone as well as the other vote, but that would give Donald Trump a 2-point win in the state, which I think is very, very, very plausible. And I think he's going to kind of rebound a little bit in the WOW counties, but mainly in Washington County. I expect Waukesha to be stagnant. Ozaukee might move left, but it's also the smallest of the three. And I think Racine and Kenosha are going to move right as well. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch for sure. Democrats, they have Dane County, which is going to help them a lot. That's Madison. But again, it's only, 10, 11% of the state's population there. And they always get full turnout. So Republicans, they need that equalizer. That's Donald Trump. I think he's going to win the state by about 2. So here you go. Donald Trump with 312 electoral votes. Kamala Harris with 226 electoral votes. This has kind of been our prediction for a while, and we're going to see how the next 2 weeks go. But just as more data comes in, it just keeps cementing the prediction, and we'll monitor the margins. They may shift. 2 weeks in politics can be an eternity, but in the meantime, make sure you get out and vote and get everybody you know to get out and vote. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.